beautiful people. We are excited to be seated here today as we would be reflecting on our year as presidents during a very, very challenging time. It's been a mix of different emotions, but I'm excited that we have been able to pull through. I'm excited that despite the challenges that myself and most especially other students at UWI Bristol have faced this year, we have still been able to do great things across the university. So I look forward to hearing all that we have to say in today's conversation. So stick with us and stay tuned.
Yippee! Right, so I'm going to start off with the president, Augusta.
Oh no, I was hoping that you would start off with my followers. I did this out. Playing.
Lead the way.
Oh, I thought I was leading the way with the introduction.
Augusta, what were your highlights this year?
Exactly. No one would expect this response, but I think my biggest highlight is getting through and still being the president till this point. I experienced, a breakdown halfway through the year because one, it was not what I anticipated, and considering the nature of myself, I always like to do things for people. So at the point that I realized that some of the things that students were demanding for, such as tuition fee refund, was something that was beyond my role, I felt like I had failed them. So just being able to stay till this point and start projects, initiate projects that had not been done before this year has been remarkable. So 3 partnership projects, a whole year of Black History Month campaign. I think that is something to talk about. And in March, most influential woman.
Yeah.
One of. So yeah, that is my biggest highlight.
Many congratulations for all of that, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, Joey, what are your highlights from this academic year?
It's not going to be just this academic year because I've been in post for like 2 years, and for me it's been an experience because having the first year being out there, active, engaging, and the second year being more in the shadows, it's been a lot. So I wrote a few down. I think for one, because I love food, I started out being the champion for, more diverse food options. And I think one thing I'm really proud of from that is the food fair being adopted by the university and moving forward, at least to make up for where they're lacking.
Yeah.
They would have like food stalls and vans on campus sites. I think they're ready to push on Bauer Ashton, then would have on Glenside. So for me, that has been one thing. I know the main goal is to have all the outlets influenced or have that highlighted or reflected in their food options. So hopefully we'll get there in that. But that's one. Another one that I've not really made mention on in the past year is SPLD. So specific learning difficulties, because I struggled with it myself until I realized. I think for me, really putting that in the university's agenda on looking at, students with specific learning difficulties and how they can be supported. Because from my background, it's not something that is being spoken of, and really experiencing it and trying to change the narrative. Like, look, if you have dyslexia, dyspraxia, or things like that, it's not like a death sentence. It doesn't really put you at disadvantage. It's just really like knowing your learning strengths, strategies, and capitalizing on them. If you want to work hard on the weaknesses, feel free, try and develop it. But really, that's really where we need to get students thinking. So if you're struggling and you suspect it might be that, just get the diagnostics done, and you have nothing to lose. You find out yes, or you find out no, then it's just aids your learning.
I'm really loving the fact that you're chipping that in even within this reflection, because someone actually who might be watching might be going through the same thing.
It's definitely, and I think what both of you have touched on is you mentioned the whole mental health thing and how we're all struggling through this because we're in situations where we haven't been in yet. And I think it's good that we as students know that you also have these struggles. I think it's sometimes easy to forget that you are still people, you are still students, and to work around that. So thank you for mentioning things that we're all
That's fine.
going through.
Just 2 more. I'll just cut it down. I think the other one is the partnership projects, most especially building learning communities, because this one evolved from a conversation of me trying to have more, looking to have more social activities within the academic space and trying to build that sense of belonging into now the partnership projects of building learning communities. So I feel like that one would be like a great win for the whole university in terms of community building and giving students that empowerment to like take lead and take charge even at academic level. And the last one, the campaign weeks. The 2 campaign weeks that I experienced, because it's an experience. I really pushed myself because I didn't see myself as someone that could talk to people or strangers from before I even got into the role. But I've come a long way. That's what I'll say. So yeah, those are some of the positives. Yeah.
Amazing.
What about you, Jane? What are your highlights?
Oh, we didn't even know that. What are my highlights? I have so many highlights, to be very honest. I think it goes back to what he's just finished saying. I think my biggest highlight would be actually even thinking that I would become VP Education, even writing a manifesto, to even signing up online, to campaigning. The whole campaign experience was not easy. And just the determination and Jean, you can do this thing. Every day I'm going to make sure I get all the words that I can before I go back home. It was blood, sweat and tears because until the last day I am going there with everything. I'm giving it all my all. And just even some days I look back at that video when they announced it, and I'm like, oh my god, my name is Jane. I think that's the biggest highlight for me, knowing that if I put my mind to something, it's actually achievable. And maybe we bring it back to work, and some of my highlights would have been the attainment gap project that I worked on, or I have been working on. Before, as a student, I just never knew what the attainment gap was. I just wanted to get a degree and leave uni. Then coming into this role, I discovered that there's this huge conversation about how black people don't attain as high as their white counterparts. And then I began to do more research, speak to people, and they began to show me figures, and I was like, So you students are even at a more disadvantage than any other universities across the UK. So I'm like, okay, you know what? The light bulb moment came. I decided to do panel events, but I think genuinely, the university can be doing more to really tackle this issue by holding staff accountable and so much more. Just seeing that students came to that event, leaving with it was questions that they asked, leaving with the knowledge of they actually know what the attainment gap meant, and some of them, one of them has gone to even become a student advocate at HAS, and even push more of the conversation than they had previously known about it. So another project would be because this actually birthed the new project I decided to work on this new year, and it was the Decolonizing My Library project, whereby students were invited to be part of co-creating their reading list. because time and time again it has been only done by staff members. There was no way students were actually feeding into what their reading list looked like, and it meant that international students came in and only saw like white people on their reading list. And okay, what if it would be nice to see a Nigerian in my reading list who has also contributed towards like what I'm studying. So yeah, that's really like created a platform for people to recommend books that they would like to see. And over the last few months, we have bought books that's gone on library shelves. Some of them have been added to their reading list, and we've actually created avenues for students to make money while also contributing to their reading list. And what else? I think also the Black History Month campaigns that we ran, like helping students, even just randomly meeting someone, or they come up to the office and they're like, oh, I need help with something. Okay, I remember one incident where a student came up to me. She's like, oh, I really need help. If I don't get this help, I would have to go back home. And basically, my whole career depends on you right now. I'm like, yeah. Exactly. So I had to be really like proactive, gathered information from her. I went to do meeting. I'm like, this girl's academics lies in your hands, and like. The university has also been very supportive, and she was able to help me speak to the right person, and there was a lot of back and forth, but at the end of the day it was just that message from her, like, whoa, like I could just see the appreciation. I'm like, wow, like in just little ways, just even the little things were actually contributing towards someone's life.
And university experience, it's all about the positive university.
Yeah, just try and be audible.
Sam, what has been your highlights for this year?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think for me, first and foremost, I would want to say we're running for election, but I will first of all start with society conference. Why? Because that was the first time I had to meet everybody, like virtually, and I had to lead the event, like running. It was difficult because when Kelly told me this, I was like, whoa, wow, like, I'm the one in charge of it. He said, yeah, so basically the president runs. And the SU really has this thing of, you are the representative, it's your face, you're the face of the student, someone do this, someone do that. But it was actually quite cool. On that day, I know I was actually, at some point I was really, really anxious, if I say anxious. Like, I needed to know I knew whatever I was saying, but, I mean, it was different. It was the first time for me. But it was different. I had my color hair, like, a lot of things were being put in. But it went well on that day, like, we had about 80 students, and it was just weird, like, how that went and ended. Like, it started off, I don't know, I think it just still went well, and students were cool, and I just realized that, everyone is just going to do whatever you want them to do. Like, just take the lead. How are you? They'll say, I'm good. Do you have an emoji? Like, people just want to see what you are made of and what you are like. So, if you're yourself, do what you like and don't like it. So, that was that one, and that was like the big one for me. After that, the rest was cool. And the next thing was rerunning for election because it was virtual. And to be honest, I know how many times I asked Will, I'm like, how is it going to be? I don't really know what this is. Like, but guess what? It was weird, it was funny, but in a way it was, to be honest, it was like the best election I ever had, because compared to, the year before, running up and down, I feel the year before was like my most engaging moment in my life in the university ever, like talking to people. So yeah, it was actually really great. That was the second one. I don't want to list everything I've done because that's what I'm going to end up doing. But sticking to the question, those are my most crazy moments.
Sam, don't mind Joey and Jane. They said highlight. What is a highlight? Yeah, they ran through their whole year. Don't mind them. They've had 2 years.
Just to prove your point, right? Can I add one more?
No! No,
hot seat. Why don't you tell us what you love being most about being Vice President, Societies and Communication?
To be honest, what I actually loved it, the good feeling I haven't felt it yet. Why? Because it's people. So I like I like society because it's people. It's like a social preferred to me. Like it's like being a social preferred, and you're just responsible for people's events and people's life experience in the university, which for me is entertaining. Is as much as the will I say paperwork is could be hectic sometimes, but like minus paperwork, it's just me trying to make you have fun. And in the course of me making you have fun, I'm having fun too. I remember like for the sports president last year, previous years, he used to have like maybe sports, is it sports? Where they go to the club and they, after like their games on Wednesdays, I'm like, when I heard of that, I was like, yeah, that's cool, he's working, right? But he's actually working, he's doing what he's been up to. I love those, I love people, I love, lifestyle. So that is actually one thing I like about societies in particular. That's why I ran for the samples.
Thanks.
And you won 2 times.
I think I just got the attraction from the.
Oh wow! Our goodness was rubbing off on you.
Right, Vice President Education. Tell us what you have loved most of being in the role.
Definitely working with me, right?
Well, I love that, don't I? I love that, but you had it. You didn't put it in my life.
I'm not a goodie.
It is fun.
I'll put some that in.
What has been what have I loved most about the show? That's very good. What have I loved most about the show? To be very, very, very honest, I also think the students, because without them, this role wouldn't exist. Student reps, most especially getting their feedback and actually acting on it, and which has also helped me personally, because it means that okay, I can go to the directorate team, I can actually speak to them, because before now, I remember my first academic board, and I had to tell them about student complaint or that I had to read something out to them, and I was rejecting. I don't think they even heard me. I was like, oh. She's like, after the meeting, send me the documents. It was that bad. Yeah. But yeah, I think the students would be the things I love most about this role. And even maybe the random walks in the library, and someone comes up to you and like, oh, you're a PP education, I have an issue with this, help me with this. And I think those are the reasons why, exactly, those are the reasons why I'm in this role. And the fact that I can help in any way possible is what makes me love the role. Yeah, I genuinely love helping people.
Joey, as VP Community and Welfare, what have you loved most of your role in the last 2 years?
It's
How many points are we waiting for this?
no points. I mean, I'll first start by saying something I used to say before I go into post was, as individuals, there's just so much we can do. But when we're in the position of leadership, or where we can actually drive that practical change, then we can actually start to influence and see those things we want happen, and you can't do it by yourself. First off, community and welfare. I didn't know how much of a role it was until I got in, and then it dawned on me, the whole community, there's everyone in it, so one way or the other, mental health is a big one, welfare, and that community building. So I think for me it's making an impact, or being able to have this opportunity where I can, I've been in UWI for how many years, and actually being able to be there to make an impact or rather influence some decisions that would we could probably bring about positive change in the long run. I'll say that's one. On the flip side, it's been challenging, like it's been an experience for me and my personal development, because we didn't see the pandemic coming. And I feel when that came, it was like, rah, I didn't see life this way. But you just have to keep going. So how do you really still keep yourself afloat when you're meant to like be representing a whole lot? So I think for me it was, because I'm a very real person. I would say like my biggest
Now's
critic.
not the time to tell us you're a robot.
I'll say I'm my biggest critic before anyone else. So it's been like a battle. Will I say, yeah, and yeah, so good.
Well, thank you for keeping it to one.
Yeah.
Thank you. Me too. Madam President, last but not least, would you please tell us what you loved most about being in this role?
I feel like in that question there was an emphasis on most, which is one.
Shorts.
3 words.
3 words. Leading, influencing, and
Shows like a 3
change.
Change.
Girls might-
And change is not 1, it's 2.
But it's having the privilege and the honor to actually lead the student body during a pandemic. I don't think there's anything bigger than that,
No.
because the blows were coming from every side, and there's only so much that a student gets to see, and that's understandable. I'm in a position where I have the opportunity to make a difference, and sitting in different rooms trying to make sure that I am echoing the voices of students, and the change that they want is coming through brings so much joy. So leading has been great. From a personal side, in terms of my personal development, being able to lead my team, manage my team, that was not something that I thought I was prepared for. But this year has given me that, and I have gained so much, and I think it's, the sky is only the starting point from here.
There we go.
Follow the leader.
Right. Jane, if you could go back 2 years in time to the Jane that first started campaigning for VP education, what advice would you give your younger self?
Why does she start with laughing?
Because she doesn't want to realise she's getting old.
Or maybe that is a tactic, to help her think about the question. Yes, it is. She's still thinking. That's why she's still laughing. She's still thinking.
Okay, I'm serious.
Just let it open.
So, what's the question again?
See your mates.
What advice would you give the you that first started in the position?
I think, so what advice would I give Jane the first time? I think I wouldn't want to go back to 2 years ago. I'll go back to 2016 when I first came here. And I'll give that advice to my 2016 self. I forgot how old I was. This is bad.
You were very young.
Yeah,
Do you know how old
I
you
think
were?
I was probably 20 or 19.
20. You were 18.
No worry.
They don't even know that. Okay, I'll go back and actually advise my 18-year-old self. And then I'll tell her that you can do anything that you want to do. Yeah, and you should aspire for more because you're strong, you're brave, you're bold. And because I think it would have been fear or I got the word. imposter syndrome that, oh, you can't do that, you don't see yourself there. But the fact that I was able to beat all that and just like, walk into this space, learn on the job, and even tell myself, okay, you can do this. If there's opportunity, I'm like, okay, I need that so that by the end of this role, I'm more confident in like maybe speaking out, drafting a document, or writing a proposal. Never done all these things before, so like you can actually do it. What else would I tell her?
But don't you think you're doing those things already?
Yeah, but before this role, I never did those things. So like, I never spoke to like 200 people. I never sat in a room with like Steve West, Joe Midley, the director. It's like I would probably melt like butter. But I basically put myself in the fire and like, yeah, and I haven't burnt. Well, not yet. I'm not gonna burn. Yeah, I'm fire resistant. Yeah, so yeah, it's just I'll tell her that she can do anything that she wants to.
Augusta, what advice would you give the Augusta that started this role?
I would tell her to think for herself. You can ask people for their opinions or guidance to what you need to do, but it's always important for you to make your own decisions so that whichever way you go and with whatever happens, you are contented with the fact that you made a decision and you've learned from it. And then when you get a no, let that not be the end to whatsoever you want to do. I think a no has been an instrumental part of my journey, and in terms of my success story, if I decided to give up at the point that I had a no, I wouldn't be where I am now, and I'm only just starting. I have my whole life ahead of me, so it's definitely listening to others, always seeking for other people's opinions, but making your own decision. And it's okay for you to have a different opinion from others. It's okay for you to be moving in a direction that other people aren't, and don't compare yourself. Everyone is at different points in their life. Just thinking back at when I decided to go for a placement, that was something that my peers weren't doing. So it was a challenge trying to take the non-traditional route for those that I knew, but I still went ahead to do that. It's okay for you to not go on the same field as every other person. So at the point those that I had started my degree with were graduating, I was still doing my placement, and I decided, I'm not actually going to go back to my final year. I'm interested in working with the Students' Union, let me go for it. So that was another challenge that I took for myself. And even thinking about, some people within my program, there were the no's, like, why are you trying to do this? But I see the benefit in what I have done, and I think my younger self should know that with whatever direction or route they want to take in this life, you have to have that self-conviction that you are on the right path.
Sam, if you could go back to Sam of a year ago, what advice would you give yourself?
First of all, after thinking about this, every advice I give myself, I feel I'm still giving those advice to myself. And first of all, I'll start with everything is possible. And but at the same time, I've always believed that, but it's true because it's manifesting itself. And also think of yourself, as Augusta said, I love that, like, think for yourself, because I've realized sometimes, like when I started, I had a lot of times in which I have to, forward emails to the managers just to fill in that box, or like what should I say. But to an extent, that became weird to do because I was like, I'm at a position where I don't even know who's been in me, if I'm honest. But like at the same time, you just, you know, two heads are better than one, and these guys have been here for a longer time. You're just here to come and go, so they know better. But like most times, I want to make those decisions myself. I don't need to ask, just say it and deal with it. Then finally, when at work, be work. So basically, it's sometimes okay. We learn something like hats. You wear different hats at work, and knowing that I knew that when I was here, I didn't really dip it that much. Outside, you see it as maybe multiple personality, but it's just discipline because it's hard. Self control is hard, but like when I work be work in which when I'm here, I'm seen as the vice president of societies and communication. So in a way, I feel I'm responsible for a lot of things. So even maybe how I want to talk to you, in a I have to be formal basically. So I feel that's one thing. I try to discipline myself to know that yeah, you just have to be formal when you're at work. If you want to be yourself, that's me outside these walls, if that makes sense. And there I'm in a different hat as maybe a friend. But yeah, so
But just to chip in there, I think if Tim was here, he would say, even at work, whilst you're wearing different hats, I still want you to be yourself. So
oh, no.
You can wear a different hat, just keep your hair coloured.
yeah.
Fair enough. So that's a good way to put it. Well, cool. But yeah, that's been it, and that's what I'm talking.
And Joey of 2 years back before he started this position, what would you have liked to tell him?
First things first, know your capacity, and because that's one thing I got to understand, because the role comes with a lot already, so know how much you can take on at a time, so you're effective, and it doesn't get overwhelmed. And that leads nicely into always look after yourself, because if you're not looking after yourself, it's very easy to actually forget about yourself and just keep going. But if you don't look after yourself, you get to that point where you're going to be like, oh wow. And yeah, those moments can be daunting. Then finally, I'll tell myself, it's an opportunity to get your social media game up. Yeah, because like I think that's one thing I really downplayed. You see like each president has their Twitter, their Facebook, but you need to, because in this generation and this age where things are on social media and all that, you need to think, how can I be engaging? How can I bring that personality onto that? Because now in times like the pandemic, that would have now been like a very good way to be there and make sure students feel your presence. So yeah, I think those two.
And then, lastly, oh no, it's not going to be lastly. Joey, can you tell me what do you want people to remember you for?
I don't know, like, what do I want people to remember me for? I guess, hopefully, the impact of like the projects and the things I've done or I've been involved in would have that lasting impact or influence positively in the university for as long as God knows when. And yeah, like, remember me as the food champion, and also an advocate for like, will I say, making students believe in themselves, creating that opportunity, creating that platform. Because I feel where I was coming from like the students that was disengaged, and I got to experience what that felt like, being disengaged, when you hit that point that you know you're disengaged, so you don't even know how to find your way out. There's a lot engagement can do, can give you knowledge, give you connections, network, and that way you know how to use that to your advantage and use that even outside university life. So, yeah.
So emotional.
Jane,
See, my phone is everything.
please can you tell us what you want people to remember you for? If you're going to start giggling.
And if it's a very tough question, she will not laugh. Because now she's thinking.
I'm actually.
At first you underrate the questions, but then when it's asked, you're like,
What do I want to be remembered for? So I think it's two things. So one not professional, one like work related and one personal. I want to be remembered for that girl that walks into the room and like somehow in the meeting I just make you laugh.
But you're not funny.
Shut up.
You have to start over again now.
Even maybe not laugh but smile. Whether it's in rep committee, rep conference, in little things that I say, from Will to Hannah to Rasheen, and even them maybe having like Tuesday meetings or just even maybe a small thing that I would just say. I just want to be remembered for someone that put a smile on people's faces in just the little things. And while like if we talk about like the things that I've done, I want to be remembered for, contributing towards the 2030 strategy here at UE. And I still go back to the Attainment Gap project, from working with the APD team to come up with the toolkit that that sort of guides staff on how to tackle the issue, to even creating my own campaign or like something that students can be involved into, tackle the issue, like thinking about it, coming up with it, going to the library team to say, oh, I have this idea, would you support me, would you help me? So it's like, even after I leave and they go onto the webpage and there's that, decolonizing my reading list, I founded it, like, even leaving, I know it's mine, so I want to be remembered for contributing towards helping Black students attain higher grades in just the most smallest thing, as improving the reading list. Yeah. And yeah, I want to be here remembered for being the happy child. That's it. Thank you so much.
Sam, what do you want to be remembered for?
I don't control what people want to remember me for.
But if you could choose one thing, if you could put one thing in somebody's mind to say, if they think of me, this is what they think.
To be precise, what I really want to do, and I'll be happy for, is to reinstate a lock-in weekend for them. And I feel if I do that, I'll be very happy. Why? It's going to stay. Because previously when I came here, it was there. I don't know who did it, but it was there until it was taken away. But I'd like to bring it back, and if it's on the weekend, then it's going to be every week. So if they're going for a lock-in weekend on Friday, they might not know it's me, but deep down know it's me, right? So that's what I'll remember for.
Everyone can dream. Augusta, last but not least, please tell us what you would like to be remembered for.
When thinking about all that I've been involved with,
I just had to say this. Yeah, break the deal.
Bristol remembers already.
Most influential.
Standards.
Oh yeah, let's go.
when I think about all that I've been involved in, from being a placement student at UWI, working as Vice President Community and Welfare, so being jury's successor, and now as President. As simple as it is, it's if you want the job done, contact Augusta. And it goes without saying that for every member of staff that I've worked with, they know that Augusta is that person that is proactive and that is keen to make the change that we want to see. And it's been a challenge keeping up with that, but I know that to the best of my ability, I've been able to do that.
To be honest, I'm finding it hard to forget you. But you're not going here.
Yeah, she said it was like a campaign line.
I'm telling you.
You want the job done, contact
I'm telling you, slogan.
I was like, straight up.
As a final one,
Of course, I saw it coming.
aside from the
I
pandemic,
knew you had something.
what was your biggest challenge? Only one challenge.
That's not part of the question.
No.
Keep going.
Go that way.
What was the biggest challenge you faced outside of the pandemic? So, pandemic aside, what was the biggest challenge that you in your position faced? Joe?
I think managing myself, like obviously from my previous answers, you can tell that that's like a part that I got to really struggle with. Because, yeah, there's you in here with different hats, there's your outside life, being an international student. Bristol is home, feels like home to me, but it's not home to me. So there's really like trying to navigate yourself into the professional world in the UK. So I think managing myself was one challenge, apart from the pandemic, in the first year and the second year. Yeah.
Sam?
You know, allow me to finish.
Only one challenge.
Well, it's actually not far from what Joey said, because it was adding up on, managing yourself, being yourself, because it was actually hard. Well, I'm a lot of person in one, if that makes sense. Like, I have this, I've got other interests as well, and at some point I want to do everything at the same time. And it's actually hard sometimes, being that person and also facing the challenges those other things bring, and also coming here and being this person, because that's why I said when you're at work, be work. But it's also challenging because, so managing yourself, managing your personal life, being that person and also facing the challenges those other things bring, and also coming here and being this person, because that's why I said when you're at work, be work. But it's also challenging because, so managing yourself, managing your personal life, your feelings, and life in general. I feel there's a lot to say, but at the end of the day, I feel we all go through this. But being this person, handling those challenges, and also still being here and sitting down here is a lot. So
Righty, Jane, could you please tell us what your biggest challenge was outside of the pandemic? So, apart from the pandemic, Jane, what was the biggest challenge you faced in this role?
That's a very good question. I must say.
Thank you, that's why I'm asking.
Very, very good question. What's the biggest? I think my biggest challenge, maybe not biggest, I wouldn't use the word biggest. I think some days I have my own challenge. Like, in the sense that I'm still working on that challenge, like every day. Not every day, but some days. And it would be like having an imposter syndrome. Genuinely, like, it was serious. When I first came into this role, it was like, you don't belong here, maybe this isn't for you, that kind of thing. But like working on it every day to like
walking the stairs one day and I'm not thinking about it. I'm actually coming into work. So yeah, initially I would say that has been a challenge. But the fact that I'm sitting down here now and saying that, I don't feel that way anymore.
There we go. Augusta, pandemic aside, what was your biggest challenge in your role?
I think from the first question, I already mentioned this already, and it is, or it was, just being able to ensure that those things that students raised, their concerns, were actually seen through to the end, because unfortunately, in all honesty, there were some things we were able to do which gave us so much joy, like the safety net policy, getting rent rebates for students on campus, being able to provide letters that supported students in private accommodation. But just on that note of tuition fees and those who were studying remotely who really and desperately wanted to come back to campus, that was beyond me. So I think the challenge was showing my support, but unfortunately not giving them exactly what they wanted. So thinking about alternative ways that I could have supported them. So on behalf of the team, I would just like to use this opportunity to thank Vinny Kruger for being one of the most engaging students I have ever met. Vanik, in my way of describing you now, I would call you a 2-time award winner. You are amazing. You are different, and different is unique. And wherever you go to in this life, I want you to remember that out of thousands, you stood out. I don't think there is any member of the Students' Union that does not know who you are. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for always being consistent, because consistency is something that a lot of people struggle with, but you have been able to keep it up, and it is beyond admirable. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You are too kind. I just want to take this opportunity to thank the President's team for sitting down with me and sharing thoughts and experiences of the past year. It could not have been easy, and we as students appreciate you, the President's team. We see your hard work and we appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Okay, come on.
I don't know how to dance. Okay.
What's your Snapchat? Expose yourself.
Oh yeah, because
Occasional.
this is the last time that my ear.
Oh no, not doing that. No.
Don't worry, I thought camera didn't capture your session.
I don't even know if you can see me, but I'm just. I don't think I can see us. I think I only see you. Well. I don't even know what to say, but it's summer and it's lovely to, it's always a pleasure to be in your presence and see you. I hope you can see me.
I'm just gonna use this opportunity to say a big thank you to Tim Benford, for being an amazing person all around. You are an inspiration, and the past 2 years of working with you has been great.
I'm crazy.
You're fantastic.
You're so
perfectly splendid.
You're supportive. You're brilliant.
You have champagne.
Yes.
Exactly.
I'm definitely going to miss working with Tim.
Aww.
I'm going to not miss.
And on that note, it's been an absolute pleasure working with all of you, or serving all of you. Now, to the happy days.
They'll definitely remember you for that picture.
Yeah, can we take a picture? Vanique.
Crazy.
I didn't think we were going to end the year together. That was the challenge.
Oh, hold on, James, please.
She's short.